From 2005 to 2025, the conventional electric car was everywhere. Designed to reduce carbon emissions and cut dependence on fossil fuels, it achieved notable success, selling millions of units worldwide and reshaping public perception of transportation. Yet, behind the popularity lay hidden limitations. Critics criticized its reliance on charging infrastructure that barely existed in rural areas. Users loved the idea of quiet, smooth driving, but often found themselves stranded far from a charging station. These are the shocking secrets of electric vehicles, until Aptera came along to rewrite the rules. The story begins not in Silicon Valley or Detroit, but in a small, sunlit garage in Carlsbad, California. In 2005, a group of engineers envisioned a vehicle that could escape the constraints of traditional energy sources entirely. Its mission was simple, yet audacious. Build a car that didn't need gas, didn't need frequent charging, and could harness the power of the sun. The Aptera, named after the Greek word for wingless, was conceived as an ultra-efficient, three-wheeled electric vehicle designed for the modern era's energy challenges. In reality, the goal was both practical and revolutionary. By combining lightweight aerodynamics with solar power, they sought to create a vehicle capable of driving for months without connecting to the grid. What it lacked was the traditional profile of a car. Its design was polarizing. The most obvious example was its teardrop shape, with a cockpit barely wider than a small sports car. Engineers defended it as necessary to reduce drag, improve efficiency, and extend solar range. Yet early skeptics questioned whether consumers would embrace such a radical departure from the familiar silhouette of a sedan. Ask almost any user what frustrated them most, and they would mention the seating arrangement. The vehicle could accommodate only 2 people, and the rear seat, while technically present, was cramped for adults. But every compromise had a reason. Reducing weight and maximizing solar surface area meant fewer materials, less energy consumption, and a vehicle that could, in theory, drive hundreds of miles without a single charge. The first major challenge emerged in energy storage. In 2007, the company opted for lithium-ion batteries that were light but costly. The business reason was clear. Lighter batteries meant higher efficiency and longer solar range. But the unexpected consequence was financial strain. Production costs soared, and early investors balked at the steep price tag. Users who pre-ordered the vehicles had to wait years for delivery, and many wondered if the promise of solar independence would ever materialize. Critics labeled the company overambitious and impractical, while supporters praised the innovative engineering behind every carefully considered curve. The narrative was clear. Aptera was daring to imagine a future that didn't yet exist. Another secret came from its reliance on solar panels. The roof, hood, and rear surfaces were covered in photovoltaic cells capable of generating up to 40 miles of range per day under ideal conditions. In reality, sunny California was kind, but users in cloudy or northern climates often experienced much less benefit. What it lacked was consistent performance in all conditions, a flaw that traditional cars never had to consider. The company justified this compromise by emphasizing that most commuters drive less than 40 miles per day, so solar supplementation alone could cover routine trips. But the truth was more nuanced. Unexpected weather patterns and regional differences made solar-only driving a novelty, rather than a dependable daily solution. Ask any owner who tried to drive through Seattle or Portland during winter, and the frustration was palpable. Yet for the enthusiasts, the promise of near-infinite fuel was worth the occasional limitation. Aerodynamics was another secret ingredient in Aptera's story. Its sleek design reduced drag coefficient to as low as 0.15, compared to 0.24 for a typical sedan. The most obvious example was the rear-wheel fairings, which reduced turbulence behind the vehicle. Engineers celebrated this efficiency because it directly extended the vehicle's range. In practice, the narrow body and three-wheel layout required careful handling. Users noted that turning at high speeds felt different from a conventional car. The unexpected consequence? While the vehicle achieved unparalleled efficiency, it demanded a learning curve. Critics pointed out that the design prioritized numbers over comfort, but fans admired the engineering audacity. It was, in essence, a car built by scientists for the world, challenging the conventional wisdom of automobile design. Financial and production hurdles were another layer of Aptera's hidden story. In 2011, the company filed for bankruptcy after failing to scale manufacturing. The business reason was simple. Building a car, unlike any other, required specialized materials and assembly techniques, which drove up costs. The unexpected consequence was a gap of several years before Aptera could re-emerge with new investment and a redesigned model. Users who had backed the original concept were left in limbo, uncertain whether the dream of solar independence would survive. In reality, these challenges highlighted a tension between innovation and practicality, illustrating the risks of trying to disrupt an entrenched industry. Ask almost any investor from that era, and they'll admit, Aptera was visionary, but the financial model had yet to catch up with the engineering marvel. The next secret revolved around regulation and classification. As a three-wheeled vehicle, Aptera was technically a motorcycle in many jurisdictions. The most obvious example was its licensing requirements. Users who purchased the vehicle sometimes needed a motorcycle endorsement, which confused traditional car drivers. The business reason was to avoid full automotive safety crash testing, which would have added millions in cost and delayed production. In reality, this compromise sparked debate. Could a car-like vehicle classified as a motorcycle ever gain mainstream acceptance? Critics argued it would remain a niche product, while enthusiasts celebrated the loophole as a clever way to bring advanced technology to market faster. The impact on users was mixed. Some appreciated the efficiency and novelty, others balked at the unusual legal status. The punchline was inevitable. Aptera was redefining not just technology, but also the rules of the road. Battery longevity was another hidden factor. The company opted for high-density lithium-ion packs, capable of supporting up to 1,000 miles of range per charge in the most efficient driving scenarios. What it lacked was widespread knowledge of long-term degradation. In reality, users who drove aggressively or relied heavily on solar supplementation found that capacity declined faster than anticipated. The most obvious example came from the first pre-production units, which showed noticeable drop in range after just a few years. Engineers had predicted this, but market perception lagged behind technical reality. The consequence was a nuanced tension between promise and performance. Ask almost any early adopter, and they would recall calculating daily solar gains and battery efficiency with near-religious precision. The lesson was clear. Innovation demanded both patience and dedication from its audience. Software and electronics formed another layer of complexity. Aptera integrated a digital dashboard, real-time solar monitoring, and AI-assisted route optimization. The most obvious example was the navigation system that suggested routes optimized for solar exposure. The business reason was to maximize user experience and showcase the vehicle's technological sophistication. In practice, some users found the interface unintuitive, and updates occasionally caused glitches in monitoring data. The unexpected consequence? While the vehicle became a marvel of engineering, casual users sometimes struggled to interpret the metrics, highlighting the tension between technical innovation and accessibility. In reality, these digital features were a glimpse into the future of smart, energy-conscious vehicles. They foreshadowed a world where cars were not just transportation, but intelligent companions optimizing energy, speed, and efficiency. Cultural impact of the Aptera is difficult to overstate. It inspired a new wave of thinking about personal transportation. Students at engineering schools across the United States used the vehicle as a case study in efficiency and sustainability. The most obvious example was the rise of ultra-lightweight EV prototypes modeled after Aptera's principles. From design competitions to hobbyist conversions, the vehicle sparked imagination across generations. Ask almost any EV enthusiast from the 2010s, and they will cite Aptera as a turning point in how we perceived energy, solar power, and vehicle design. In reality, the company's influence extended beyond transportation. It contributed to a broader cultural conversation about what was possible when engineers challenged conventional limitations and embraced renewable energy in a personal, everyday context. The legacy is equally tangible in statistics. By 2025, over 1,000 pre-orders had been secured for the new generation of Aptera, signaling both persistent demand and cultural resonance. What it lacked in mass production compared to Tesla or Nissan was offset by sheer innovation. In reality, Aptera stands as a testament to ingenuity, a vehicle that dared to imagine a world where roads are traveled without gas stations, where daily commutes harness the sun, and where efficiency is measured in creativity as much as in miles per kilowatt-hour. The most obvious example remains its solar roof, which silently converts photons into hundreds of miles of potential travel. A simple, yet revolutionary statement about energy independence. As we look back, the question becomes, what if Aptera's vision had been realized on a mass scale in the early 2010s? Roads would be lined with vehicles powered entirely by sunlight. Charging stations, as we know them today, might be obsolete. The air would be cleaner, cities quieter, and energy consumption reimagined. Yet, the irony is profound. In a world obsessed with speed, horsepower, and size, a humble three-wheeled solar car has captured the imagination of engineers, enthusiasts, and futurists alike. Its lasting legacy is not measured in units sold, but in ideas sparked and limitations challenged. Aptera's journey reminds us that innovation is rarely linear. What it lacked in conventional appeal, it made up for in ambition. What it lacked in mainstream acceptance, it compensated with influence. And what it lacked in immediate profitability, it will one day claim as visionary foresight. In reality, the vehicle is a quiet revolution on wheels, a reminder that the future doesn't arrive in gas fumes or charging cords, but in sunlight, ingenuity, and the audacity to imagine what the world could be.